In this lesson we will create API for create, read, update and delete user. We have already this user table in our database. In the previous lesson we added this model and we applied a migration in our DB. So now first of all we have to create new folder. You can name it anything you want, but we will follow the convention. So we will name this API, and inside API we will create another folder for this user APIs. So we'll name this users, and inside the users folder we have to create a file which is called route. So route.ts. This will be responsible for creating a user and getting all users. So first let's install Prisma client. Now search for Prisma client and you will find their official link to how to install Prisma client. So first we need to install the Prisma CLI. We already did this, so we don't need it. Then we have to run this command to install the Prisma client. So let's run this. Now the installation is complete, and what we will need to do, we will need to create a file which will create single instance of Prisma client. So let's go to our browser and search for Prisma client Next.js best practice. You'll find this article, and here you can see there's a code snippet here provided by the team. So we'll copy this and we will add a file. Let's go to the Prisma folder, and here let's add a file. We can call this client.ts or db.ts, and here let's paste this, save it. Now let's go back to the route file, and here first we will export a function which will be get. It will receive a request which will be next request. So import the next request from next/server. Now let's get all the users. So const users, it will be, so we have to make this function asynchronous because this will be a synchronous operation. So let's import Prisma from at prisma./db that we created, the file we just created. So prisma dot users user dot find many, and this will give us the list of all users. We can return it. So return next response.json and pass the users. So that's it for the get request. Now we will create an API for creating the user. So let's add the post method. So export async, and it will be type of post. We'll also receive next request. First we will parse the request, so and we'll call it body. So request.json. Look at the JSON. It will be a type of promise, so we have to avoid this. So our data will be inside this body. Now if you want, you can add some validation here. If the validation is okay, I mean there's no error, then we can create this user. So for that we will use this Prisma client. So Prisma dot user dot create, and here we will pass an object, and inside the object there is a property of data which will be another object. Now we will specify the data. So it will be type of user. So let's go to the model again. So email, we have to pass the email as, and also boolean because we didn't specify any default value for this. So let's add email. It should be body.email, and then what was the other properties? Age and is active. So age 30 is active, we can say this true, and we have to avoid this, and we can set the newly created user and call this user. Now we will send the response. So return next response dot JSON. First we will return the user, and we can specify the status, which will be 201 created, and that's it for the for creating a user. Let's save this, and the get all and create user is done. Now we will add API for getting a single user and updating and deleting the user. So let's add another folder inside users folder, and let's call this ID. We will have this parameter, and inside this folder we will need to add the route file. Now first export function for getting single user. So export async function, it will be get, and there will be request of type next request, and after that we can specify the props interface, or we can directly use this syntax, like there will be params, and it will be of type an object which will be containing the ID, and this ID will be type of string, because in the URL no matter if this is a number or decimal or anything else, it will be treated as string. So let's complete this function. So for the single user we will store the user in this variable, and we'll use the Prisma client, and we'll use the user object, and then find unique, and here we will specify the where property, and it will be also an object, where ID should be equal to this ID. So let's parse this into integer. So parse int, and let's say params.id, and that's it. Now if the user is null, then we will return not found, and the user is not null, then we will return the user. So let's set the condition. If user is falsy or null, then we will return next response dot JSON. First we will add this object which will contain an error. We can say this, that user not found, then the second parameter we can specify the status of the response, which will be 404. Now if the user is there, we will just return the user next response .json and pass the user. That's it for the get. Export async function, and we'll call this delete. It will also receive the request. Actually it will receive the same type of parameters, so let's copy this from here and paste it here. This part is almost same. We have to first we need to check that if the user exists or not. So let's copy this logic from here and paste it. So this is, if the user doesn't exist, we will return that it doesn't exist and return 404. But if it exists, then we will just delete this. So await prisma.user.delete, and here, like the find unique, we will specify this fire property, and it will delete the user, and then if everything is okay, we will return next response.json with an empty object. That's it for the delete API. Now we will add an API for updating the user, and let's add patch. For that we could use put, but most of the cases we will update some of the properties, not all the properties. So let's export the function for updating user, so patch, and this will also have the same signature of parameter. So the first few lines are common. We need to check that if the user really exists or not. If not, we will return not found, and if yes, then we will update the properties. Now if it reaches here, we will extract the data from the request. So in the body, so let's add this constant and parse this request.json. Now you should add some validation. I will not do this in this lesson. So for now we will consider that this will be a valid object, and then we will just update this. So await prisma.user.update, and here we will pass the object with where and data. So the where will be the same. We can copy this from here, and we will also have to assign the data. So data will be what we will update. We can update the email, age, and both is active. So let's add email to body.email, and age will be body.age. Now let's save this, and now we will test these API endpoints using a tool called Postman. If you don't have Postman installed on your machine, just search for it, and it's free. You can download and install this. So npm run dev. So let's go to Postman, and here select HTTP post, and the URL will be localhost colon 3000 slash API slash users for creating the user, and select raw here and JSON here, and we will add the object. The first is email, and it will be, you can add your email. I will add a sample email, and then age, and it will be number. So for this example I'll say 15, and we don't need maybe anything else, but I am not returning any response, so let's return the response. So return next response dot JSON, and let's store this, and we can call this updated user. So updated user, and let's send this inside the JSON, and let's save this. There was a mistake here, I hard coded the 30 here, but it will be body.age for creating user. Now let's try again to update this user. So patch, let's select patch and user /1, and let's say nobody@gmail.com. Let's add this 100 age, send. Now this is 200, okay. And if we try to get the user, so get, you can also see that this is okay, 200. And now we'll delete this. So let's remove the body and change the get method to delete, and let's send. Now this is also okay. Now let's try to get all the users. So /users and select get. Now you can see an empty array. So all our HTTP endpoints are working. And in the next lesson we will add the users from the UI, and we will also edit and delete them.